Welcome back to WeatherNation. Space weather observations are about to get a substantial upgrade from NOAA's first space weather satellite. And the way that we receive and view that information is about to change drastically as well. Now, joining us today to discuss this exciting time in space weather forecasting is Scott McIntosh from Lynker, who is working with NOAA to help implement these new changes. Now, Scott, this new satellite is our first dedicated to full-time solar observations. Now, why is that so important for us here on Earth?
Well, it's the first of its kind. All the previous kind of space weather measurements that have been made in space are largely research spacecraft. And so, for decades, we've been fine-honing the observations that you need to make to improve space weather forecasting. This is the first dedicated mission. And the idea there is it's kind of finely tuned, if you like. All the measurements and observations are finely tuned to help us better predict arrival time of events that leave the sun and travel that 93 million miles to hit, the Earth's atmosphere and understand the complexity of the magnetic field, all kind of key constituents of how, our planet interacts with our star.
Now, you said the word that it's complex. Space weather forecasting is complicated, but getting that information really shouldn't be. So how is Lynker trying to change how we get this critical information?
Well, we're working with our federal partners, clearly, and the idea is to try and simplify, kind of break down the analysis into its kind of key components. It's really fairly complex, but there's only a few key drivers of the system. I often kind of flippantly talk about it as being a series of coin flips. So you kind of have to understand, if the coin's going to fall heads a lot or tails a lot. So, we think that the new observations are going to help us, understand the odds a bit better on the coin flip, right? So that we're right more often than we're wrong.
I feel like that's...
we're trying to use our years of experience to help refine that.
Absolutely. That's probably the simplest way to put all the complicated background that goes into this. But when can we expect these changes to be made, and how can people get information about this solar forecast moving forward?
Well, that's the trillion-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Not 64 million. But yeah, so these spacecraft take about 3.5 to 4.5 months to get to where they're going. It's about 1.5 million miles upstream of the Earth. And then the commissioning phase will start. It's a kind of laborious process to get all of the observations tuned up and get all the data pipes coming back so that everything naturally feeds back into the model. So, you're probably looking at about a 6 to 9 month process in all. But, there's a lot of aging systems out there that we're hoping to replace, right? So, like these satellites are pretty critical for national infrastructure. So, and then the modeling capabilities that will be improved and the forecast capabilities that will be improved once they're turned on and fully active. So it's kind of an exciting time. Then the challenge is conveying that to the public. This complex thing, trying to convey it to the public, something that sounds completely bizarre and gobbledygook a lot of the time.
So how are we conveying that to the public? How is the Lynker system doing that as well?
Well, it's a real challenge. There's, your viewers are probably not all that familiar with the fact that unlike tornadoes and hurricanes, there's 3 scales in space weather. Mm-hmm. And where they impact you is very different. If you're in low Earth orbit, you have to worry about a different set of things from if you're a grid operator or if you're operating a combine harvester out in the fields of Iowa, right?
Yeah.
So they're all very different. And what we're trying to do is talk more to the people who depend on the forecasts, and then break down that complexity in these different, we've got, 3 different scales. Let's simplify them into alerts and warnings that they can then take action on. If I have to not operate my harvester for a day, then, or several hours because there's a geomagnetic storm, then properly convey that. Don't allow them to have to decipher the hieroglyphics of our, research language, right? So it's really research language, and we need to do a better job of translating it into language where people can actually make informed decisions to, either reduce their operations or shut down their system in the event of something really catastrophic.
Absolutely. I mean, as far as I was aware of, the general public was never really intended to know this information. So it's interesting to see how that's progressing moving forward. But before we let you go, is there anything else that we should know about the satellite or space weather related to this launch and revamp?
Well, I think the biggest puzzle for people is like it takes 4 months to go 1.5 million miles. Yeah, it takes a long time. Uh, I think that it's going to take a long time for a lot of what we find and to work out the glitches, because there's going to be glitches. There are always glitches, and how that propagates through to the end result. I think everybody at SWPC is very motivated, and we at Lynker are also very motivated. There's a lot of big things coming in the future. Potential human exploration of the moon again and Mars. So these kind of critical first steps in putting this forecast infrastructure in place are really important. So we're going to be very careful. I know the folks at NOAA and NASA are super careful, and I'm just excited to see what these new instruments can bring to the puzzle, really. So, because that's really what happens. It's a new puzzle. You add a new level to understanding, and so variously, how do you now put the pieces together better to get a better forecast and then communicate it to the people it matters to?
All right, well, thank you so much, Scott. We appreciate your time. Really exciting stuff for the future of space weather forecasts. That's Scott McIntosh from Lynker. We are going to go to commercial break, so we're going to take a couple minutes, but stay with us for more details on the forecast ahead.